I confided in my best friend, Emily, and without a moment's hesitation, she ended her live stream and came rushing to my apartment. I was slumped on the couch, unable to articulate my feelings. It felt heavy, but not overwhelmingly sad.
Lily! Snap out of it. How can you be so down over a cheating guy? Let's go confront them.
I've already dumped him. What's there to confront? It was bound to happen sooner or later.
Emily's fury was palpable.
No way! Today I'm going to cure you of this bad habit.
She spent nearly 2 hours picking out clothes and doing my makeup before dragging me out the door.
So your idea of curing me is taking me to a bar to meet guys? None of them even come close to David. I'm not interested.
I admit, I'm a sucker for good looks.
Of course, there's more to it than that.
She called out.
Come on out, boys!
5 or 6 handsome young men with different styles lined up in front of me. In the dim, noisy bar, I nearly spat out my brandy.
We can't be running an underground business here.
What are you thinking? Do I look like I have that kind of money? These are all my single colleagues. Pick anyone you like.
After a few drinks, my stomach started to burn, and I remembered I hadn't eaten anything since I was preparing a surprise for David.
Stop it. It's just a breakup. A few drinks will do the trick. I don't need a man for this.
She scoffed and called me ungrateful, but I didn't respond. I glanced at my phone, 46 missed calls.
Emily, I'm going to the restroom.
Leaning against the restroom door, the bar's loud music made my head throb.
David, I remember we both agreed that not pestering each other after a breakup is a virtue we admire.
David was silent on the other end of the line. After a long pause, he finally spoke.
I never thought about breaking up with you.
I almost laughed out loud.
If you think about it, our relationship was absurd from the start. It's no surprise it ended this way. David, let's keep it dignified. Happy birthday.
I hung up and walked to the sink. In the mirror, my cheeks were flushed, and my eyes were seductive. Suddenly, a memory flashed back to the summer after high school graduation. Someone had awkwardly told me,
Lily, you don't look good when you drink. Don't do it again.
Nonsense, I look stunning like this. I waved away the hazy images and was about to wash my face when someone grabbed my wrist.
Lily, you have makeup on. It'll smudge.
The voice was distant yet familiar. I pulled my hand away and looked up at him. He seemed familiar, probably one of the guys Emily brought. After focusing for a few seconds, I met a pair of emotionless eyes and immediately turned to run into the women's restroom.
Damn, it's Jack!
The love-hate relationship between Jack and me is a long story, best left for another time. In short, I didn't manage to escape. In fact, the moment I turned around, I collapsed into Jack's arms.
Throwing yourself at me? What do you want this time?
I knew I turned into a mess when drunk, so I usually avoided alcohol unless absolutely necessary.
You.
I meant to sound tough, but the alcohol made my words slip.
How much for a night?
The consequence of angering Jack was being carried off, bag and all. Dangling upside down on his back, I felt utterly disoriented. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, stretched, and accidentally kicked something hard. I turned my head and saw, oh no, Jack in his school uniform? Memories of last night came flooding back.
We're at your place.
How do you know where I live? Still have feelings for me, darling?
Cut the crap. Open the door. I need to go back and shower.
I have your clothes here.
Once inside, the room was dimly lit with candles and scattered with flower petals. There was a bottle of red wine, 2 glasses, and 2 boxes of condoms on the bedside table.
Lily, were you stood up by a guy?
I snapped back to reality and slapped my face. Close enough. This room was the surprise I had prepared for David last night. I wanted to address his lack of passion. People need to move forward, right? The doorbell rang. I scrambled out of bed, threw on some clothes, and ran to open the door. Our eyes met.
Damn it.
At such an embarrassing moment, why did it have to be David standing outside?
Hi.
I'm sorry, darling. I promise what happened yesterday won't happen again. Please believe me. I've thought it through. I love you. Regardless of our initial motives, my feelings over the past year have been genuine. I've ended things with that woman. I was just drunk and made a mistake.
Lily. You should know how late I worked last night. Can you keep it down?
Would you believe me if I said I was just drunk too?
David's face darkened instantly. As I moved to close the door, he pushed past me and strode inside. I hurried after him. Amidst the romantic setting of rose petals, the 2 men stared each other down. Jack remained composed, while David turned to me, gritting his teeth.
Who is he?
Damn it, just yesterday, I was the one asking this question.
Lily, can you stop being so childish?
David's expression looked like he was about to explode, and my temper flared up instantly.
David, it's unfair for you to do as you please while I can't. We broke up yesterday, so you have no right to boss me around now.
I didn't agree to it.
But you broke the rules.
David pressed his lips together, seemingly forgetting our unspoken agreement. Jack propped himself up against the headboard, watching the scene unfold. David noticed the school uniform Jack was wearing, and it seemed to both anger him and give him a lifeline.
Is he Jack? So all that coldness was just an excuse. You can't forget him and we're just pretending in bed to disgust me, right?
I said nothing.
David, there's no point in making more mistakes. I'm not the Sarah who loved you. Your feigned affection can't fool me. If you need to continue deceiving yourself, I can take full responsibility for our breakup.
Yes, you're right. I can't forget Jack. Now, can you please leave?
David left. The name Sarah was like a switch for him.
I knew exactly how to handle him.
Suddenly, memories I had deliberately forgotten came flooding back. I took a deep breath.
It seemed like an innate talent.
Before I could gather my thoughts, Jack asked lazily.
Can't forget, huh?
Indeed, it's quite a regret.
Regret that I woke up when you failed your English exam?
This guy really holds grudges.
My smile stiffened, but I sincerely said.
I did pass it, though.
Jack snorted self-deprecatingly and said nothing more. The situation had already happened, and I couldn't just do nothing. I scratched my head and, seeing his unfriendly expression, asked.
Did you use protection last night?
What?
A condom, did you use one?
He seemed taken aback and asked.
We can mess around, but causing a serious problem would be bad.
I said tentatively.
Mess around? Lily, do you think too highly of yourself and too little of me?
Ignoring the sarcasm in his words, the main point seemed to be that nothing happened last night, right?
I sought his confirmation.
He nodded slightly.
Then why are you still here?
Great, Jack was also angered and left. The world was finally quiet for a moment.
I collapsed on the sofa.
One mess wasn't resolved before another one came along. Jack was my first love. He transferred to our school in the third year of high school and only stayed for half a semester. Most classmates remembered him as not someone to mess with. Silent, solitary, and aloof. Initially, I felt the same as everyone else, thinking he was arrogant and reclusive, and I had no intention of interacting with him. But fate had other plans, and he ended up being my desk mate. Because of this connection, I naturally got to know him a bit better than others. Of course, this was mostly my own doing. At that time, as he said, I had ulterior motives towards him. Like most kids from wealthy families, he grew up abroad, with busy parents who had little time for him and no close relationship with any nannies. But none of this was why I paid attention to him. It all started during an English class. He was dozing off beside me, his head bobbing like a pecking chicken.
Jack, please stand up and read the passage on page 42.
When he stood up, I was more nervous than he was. I wasn't afraid he couldn't read it, I was afraid he'd lose his temper on the spot. After all, he did look like a dormant volcano. But to my surprise, Jack's temper was much better than I had imagined. He hesitated for a moment, then his fluent and soothing British accent filled the classroom. At that moment, my mind kept replaying scenes from Sherlock, where Sherlock Holmes couldn't control his rapid-fire analysis of others, with that smug and arrogant expression.
Damn, he nailed it!
After that day, all the classmates were deeply impressed by Jack. During breaks, as soon as I left my seat, I would be surrounded by girls holding books or notes. Although it usually didn't last long before he shooed them away, their enthusiasm wasn't dampened. He even became a school celebrity because of this. He still didn't talk much, but I could tell he was annoyed by the attention. That's when I came up with a crazy idea. English had always been my weak point. At the time, I had just read a joke somewhere. A heartbroken foreign man shouted into his phone at a subway station, "You never loved me. You were with me just to learn English." So one evening after self-study, I stopped Jack.
I can help you get rid of those people, but you have to agree to one condition.
Let's hear it.
As I expected, he was almost at his wit's end. My eyes gleamed with mischief.
Be my boyfriend.
He thought about it for a night and then solemnly told me.
I'll only be here for half a semester. I'll be going abroad next year.
I hesitated for a while too, but finally smiled at him with determination.
It's okay. I can handle it.
I still remember his expression and gaze from that moment, from stunned to hopeful. I was genuinely captivated by his looks again. But what he didn't know was that I thought I could handle it to improve my English, not because of him. Back then, I had no idea what love was, hurting others without realizing it. Looking back now, I was really a piece of work. Later, everything proceeded smoothly according to my plan.
Emily had a wide network and good relations. I had her spread the word about my relationship with Jack, ensuring no one would bother me anymore. During the half year I dated Jack, my English improved significantly. Although not enough to get into top universities like Tsinghua or Peking, it was sufficient for me to choose a top major at a prestigious school.
That summer after graduation, I got my wish and received an acceptance letter from my dream university. Jack returned to the country, and I told him about my exam results.
I'm genuinely happy for you, Lily.
I ordered 2 bottles of low-alcohol liquor, hoping to muster the courage to tell him everything. But he was excitedly discussing his future plans.
How are we going to handle a 4-year long-distance relationship? I will miss you.
I suddenly selfishly thought, why couldn't we just continue this way? Maybe it was the alcohol, but my face burned painfully, and I started crying.
Don't cry, Lily.
Jack hugged me, awkwardly wiping my tears. It was our first hug. The summer in Linchang was like a steamer, but he still smelled clean and pleasant, and I remembered it all.
Lily, please don't drink anymore, okay?
Why?
You don't look good when you drink. Please don't do it again.
I was drunk and limp in his arms, hearing his lowered voice say,
I won't be around, so don't drink anymore.
After that, I really never drank again, until the day he left me. After spending a morning tidying up my room, I called Emily before she went to work.
What? Jack was among my colleagues yesterday? Sweetie, I really don't know what's going on. Let me call and ask.
She hung up, and I, with nothing to do, prepared to watch a show on my tablet. I immediately saw a notification from a social platform. Still worried about how to handle yourself in a relationship? Join at Lampwick Teacher's Hot Chat Party to learn how to regain yourself from a confusing relationship. It looked like a scam. I casually clicked in and entered the party page. Someone was sharing their relationship story, roughly about not being sure if they really liked the other person. Just as I was about to get engrossed in the gossip, Emily called back.
Lily, I have some bad news for you. Jack is our company's new CEO. Isn't this kind of fate supposed to happen to you?
Listen, thank you. After graduation, Emily became a model and recently signed with a media company as a game streamer. As for why she was so afraid of Jack.
Because later, when Jack and I had a falling out, it was her boyfriend who let it slip while drunk.
I'm sorry, Lily, back then.
It's all in the past, Emily. That was never your fault. It's just that this looming threat is nerve-wracking. Could Jack be here to get back at me?
Lily hung up the phone and walked to the sink. In the mirror, her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes held a seductive glint. A memory from the summer after high school graduation flashed in her mind. Someone had awkwardly told her, Lily, you don't look good when you drink. Don't do it again.
Nonsense, I look stunning like this.
She waved away the hazy images and was about to wash her face when someone grabbed her wrist.
Lily, you have makeup on. It'll smudge.
The voice was distant yet familiar. She pulled her hand away and looked up at him. He seemed familiar, probably one of the guys Emily brought. After focusing for a few seconds, she met a pair of emotionless eyes and immediately turned to run into the women's restroom.
Damn, it's Jack!
If you truly feel regret and guilt, it's better to figure out what you really want. If you can make amends, do so. If not, just live your life well.
Pulled out of my memories, I noticed the previous person at the party had finished sharing their story, and the host was giving their advice. What do I really want? When Jack left, it left me down for a long time, but as the years passed, I thought my life had gotten back on track. Unexpectedly, Jack's reappearance made it feel like time had rewound to the day he left for abroad. Thinking back, David and I always fell short of that final step. Maybe it wasn't really about a lack of passion. Perhaps, deep down, Jack had never truly left my mind. He had become a part of me. Every time I selfishly wanted to forgive or indulge myself, I would remember Jack's tearful words, Lily, I feel like a joke,
Lily, it's your turn to speak.
I sniffled, feeling a bit congested.
I thought I had moved on from the past, but the moment he showed up, all my past mistakes came rushing back. How do you make amends in such a situation?
Cheating happens either once or countless times.
A proper ex should be like they're gone.
Girl, let your ex go.
He might not need you to make amends. Maybe he's already started a new life, and your appearance is just a disturbance to him.
Clichés. In fact, after asking the question, my first reaction was to find it amusing. It seemed Jack's appearance had indeed thrown me off balance, otherwise, why would I be grasping at straws? Just as I was about to exit, a message from the host appeared on the screen.
If you truly want to make amends, then offer your genuine heart.
Genuine heart? I bit my lip. Do I even have that anymore? After that day, neither Jack nor David contacted me again. I didn't know why, but I reverted to the state I was in when Jack first left. Sleepless nights led to drinking. Working until 3 or 4 in the morning on weekdays, and pulling all-nighters on weekends. Emily somehow got wind of this and broke down my door late one weekend night. She came in and hugged me, crying.
Lily, you're regressing.
The sudden bright light was uncomfortable. I closed my eyes and gently rubbed them.
Who says? I've never gone back. Remember to pay for the door.
I barely opened my eyes and was about to push Emily away when I noticed a pair of legs beside my head. My gaze traveled up the pants, and I met Jack's indifferent eyes looking down at me. It was strange. He hadn't done anything, yet I felt his anger.
I broke it. I'll pay.
I glanced at Emily, still buried in my chest.
I kept calling you, but you didn't answer. I was so worried. Jack happened to be around.
The building I lived in had many hotel-style apartments. Jack went out to find a housekeeper and got a large black garbage bag, filling it with my empty wine bottles.
I thought you were so carefree, saying you didn't care that day, but in the end, you still rely on alcohol.
Emily realized what was happening, looked at my face, and hesitated to speak. I pretended to feel nauseous and took her to the bathroom.
Are you just going to let him think you're drinking yourself into a stupor because of David?
Why not? It's all in the past, Emily. One of us has to move on.
But you both still care about each other. Why? It's been so long. Isn't there a chance to start over? Lily, stop deceiving yourself. I don't want to see you like this again.
I just want to drink.
People always worry that drowning your sorrows will only make things worse. But to get drunk for someone worth it, for the past years, for tonight's moonlight, is truly romantic. I hugged Emily, my tones so light I couldn't tell if it was genuine or not.
A chance to start over? Nothing is absolute. It's 50-50.
At 5 in the morning, Emily's partner came to pick her up. Jack didn't leave. As my mind gradually cleared, I saw him sitting on the floor in the corner, staring blankly at the wall. That was my private space, a place no one else had ever intruded upon. I didn't stop him or disturb him. I made myself a cup of honey water at the bar, drank it, and then took a bottle of orange soda from the fridge and handed it to him.
Why do you still have these?
They were gifts he had brought me every time he returned from abroad, souvenirs, trinkets, badges, and our favorite The Beatles records. I took the latest one and put it in the record player. Paul's lazy, casual voice made me feel like I was back in those 2 best years of college. Jack was worried about me living alone, so he bought a plane ticket and flew back the next day. He helped me sign the lease and move in. He earnestly advised me to leave his shoes and clothes outside the door and on the balcony, not to come home too late, and always to lock the doors and windows. He was so meticulous that I almost felt like I had gained a second mother. But I couldn't help but smile from ear to ear. In that house, there was also a small corner like this. Back then, the space was cramped, and there weren't many medals and trinkets, nor were the records stacked as high as they are now. I thought I had forgotten, but whenever I tried to remember, every detail came rushing back.
I like them. Why should I throw them away just because we broke up?
Not everyone can cut ties as cleanly and swiftly as he does. I pressed the remote, and the curtains enveloped the area, leaving only the flickering candlelight of the aromatherapy. Jack and I squeezed into this small, crowded space, as comfortably as if we had never been apart.
Jack, no matter what you think, whether you believe I deceived you or had ulterior motives, that time cannot be erased. Some may forget, but others choose to cherish it. I've always tried to move on, giving it my all. But before I can't let go of the time we loved each other. All these years, I've always owed you an apology. I was young and reckless, hurting others without realizing it. I'm sorry.
Jack was stunned. His lips moved.
Loved.
I understood what he wanted to say.
How could I have never liked you? Jack, do you know how wonderful you are?
Jack remained silent for a long time before pulling me into his arms. The words that couldn't be said back then, though late now, still filled the void. Jack didn't leave my place until the next day after changing the locks. I invited him to dinner another day to thank him for taking me home from the bar and for staying with me last night. I had no intention of clinging to him or rekindling old flames. Having resolved my inner conflicts, I no longer hoped for more. I just wanted a dignified farewell and a good life. I told Emily that everything was over. She cried harder than I did, dragging her partner along to buy drinks and causing a ruckus at my place all night. They raised their glasses to me, wishing me a blissful life, loving whoever I wanted. Moonlight streamed in, spreading a patch of brightness on the carpet. I squinted at the neon lights outside the window. The world is bustling and accommodating, surely it can also accommodate someone like me who wants to start anew. 2 weeks later, I made a reservation at a newly opened restaurant. I chose a window seat, where the bustling street scene filled my view. No matter who I dined with, my mood shouldn't be too bad. I just didn't expect that the person waiting for me wasn't Jack, but a stunning woman with black hair and green eyes. She was so pale she reminded me of a reflector.
Hello.
She greeted me in broken Mandarin, introducing herself as Laura.
Hello.
Do you speak English?
I looked at her calmly, though my mind was in turmoil.
No.
Sorry, my Chinese not good. Please listen.
Indeed, it wasn't very good, and it was quite a struggle to understand. Since I was starting anew, I decided to accept the parts of myself I once disliked.
You should speak English.
I used the conversational skills I had borrowed from Jack. It wasn't as difficult as I had imagined.
Wow, you speak so well. Why did you lie about not knowing English?
I didn't respond, and she didn't press further.
I saw Simon's message. I've always wanted to meet you, so I took the liberty of coming in his place.
No wonder Jack suddenly messaged saying he wanted to meet an hour earlier. The woman kept looking at me, but her gaze wasn't overly intrusive, and I didn't feel uncomfortable.
Who are you?
I'm Simon's stepmother.
I raised an eyebrow, surprised by this turn of events. I had expected her to be a fiancée or something, given that Jack's family was quite wealthy. The imagined drama of a wealthy family didn't unfold, and I wasn't too disappointed. I quietly listened to Laura explain her purpose.
I married Jack's father when I was very young, about your age now. Jack's mother reacted very strongly when she found out, constantly demanding that Jack cut ties with his father. Jack, unable to bear the disturbance, resolutely returned to his home country and became an exchange student for half a year, during which he was my desk mate. At the time, I knew that Jack was closer to the family maid than to his parents, but I hadn't realized that the maid was actually his stepmother. When Simon was in his senior year of high school, I returned to the country with him to take care of his daily needs. He changed a lot that year. I initially thought it was because he was back in his homeland, but later I realized it was because of a young girl.
The young girl was the scheming 18-year-old me.
You probably don't know this, but due to his mother's influence, he was very resistant to interacting with women. It took many years of working in his home before he became familiar with me. Before meeting you, he had never been so lively. After you broke up, although he didn't show much in front of his father and me, I could still sense it. Losing you made him very unhappy. I think you felt the same way, didn't you? I've never seen two people so well matched. You must have felt it too. Recently, he's been very distracted, locking himself in his room to smoke. I guessed it had something to do with you. No matter what happened between you two, forgive my selfishness, Miss Lily. If you still love Simon, please save him.
Thinking about it, Jack and I really were a perfect match, like young lovers who felt everything intensely, one relying on alcohol to survive, the other numbing himself with cigarettes.
From Laura's description, I thought Jack would show up looking scruffy, but he didn't. He was still tall, slim, and incredibly handsome.
However, I couldn't shake the feeling that his presence seemed lonelier than before.
The farewell words I had prepared were disrupted by this encounter, and I forgot most of them. So I decided not to think about it anymore. We ordered food, ate. Silence was the theme of the evening.
With such mutual silence, are Jack and I really a good match? Laura, are you kidding me?
Absent-mindedly scrolling through my social media, I saw someone had checked in at a nearby mall.
Shall we check out the mall ahead?
Sure.
I tried to make conversation.
Are you planning to leave again after this trip?
Not sure. If work goes well, I'll be focusing more domestically.
Emily's company?
Just in name. I have other things to do.
His family had many businesses, which I didn't understand and didn't ask about. But the more I thought about this in name, the more it seemed off. Before I could say more, someone tapped my shoulder.
Lily? What a coincidence! Are you here shopping?
I turned around, slightly stunned, then smiled.
Sarah, long time no see.
Really long time. You're getting prettier.
Sarah was carrying a bunch of shopping bags, making it inconvenient to catch up, so we found a nearby cafe.
My husband took the baby to the nursery to change diapers. I saw your back from afar and thought it looked familiar. Didn't expect it to be you.
You're married?
Yes, got married shortly after graduation. Unlike you, living so happily.
She then glanced at the silent Jack, her eyes sparkling.
Is this your long-distance boyfriend? He's so handsome. Way better than that jerk David. How did you fall for him?
I never expected that Sarah, who once loved David so deeply and almost gave up everything for him, had already moved on and married someone else. Talking about David now, there was no trace of the past pain and resentment on her face. Her eyes were bright, full of happiness.
I warned you before, being with David was like playing with fire. Now you see, you've realized it, but he probably won't give up on you easily.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. It's normal to take a few wrong turns.
We didn't chat for long before Sarah's husband came looking for her. Sarah handed the baby to Jack.
Here, get some practice for fatherhood.
Seeing Jack frozen in place, holding the little one without daring to move, I couldn't help but laugh. If I had a child with Jack, it wouldn't be so bad. Lily's heart raced as she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, her cheeks flushed, eyes gleaming with a mischievous glint. She recalled a summer memory from after high school graduation.
Lily, you don't look good when you drink. Don't do it again.
Nonsense, I look stunning like this.
She waved away the hazy images and was about to wash her face when someone grabbed her wrist.
Lily, you have makeup on. It'll smudge.
The voice was distant yet familiar. Lily pulled her hand away and looked up. The man seemed familiar, probably one of Emily's friends. After focusing for a few seconds, she met a pair of emotionless eyes and immediately turned to run into the women's restroom.
Damn, it's Jack!
Extra 1.
Lily, you and Jack are back together. We must have a reunion dinner with the four of us.
I asked Jack, and he readily agreed.
At the dinner table, the four of us looked at each other, as if we were back in college.
Cheers to Jack! And to making up for lost time.
It's all in the drink.
Emily, her face flushed, started crying loudly. I hugged her and her partner together.
These years have been tough on you. I'll work hard to make things right with Jack and have a few kids for you to play with, to vent your frustrations.
Jack glanced at me and continued drinking his juice calmly, letting us fool around. That chaotic dinner finally had a happy ending. Driver Jack dutifully drove the drunkards home. Back at my apartment, Jack closed the door and pinned me against it. His breath, smelling strongly of oranges, brushed my nose.
So sweet.
You're drunk again.
I'm not.
Jack scooped me up.
Perfect, let's get down to business.
What business?
He took off his shirt.
Didn't you say you wanted to have a few kids for Emily to play with? We can start now.
I backed into a corner, but he grabbed my ankle and pulled me back.
Jack, are you proposing to me?
Yes.
He unbuckled his belt and leaned down, pulling out a ring from somewhere.
So, will you marry me, Lily?
Not romantic at all.
I had planned something romantic, but I couldn't wait.
I can't wait to call you my husband.
Wife!
Humph.
Wife!
Ugh. You jerk.
Wife!
Ugh. Oh, Jack.